And this gives us a place for the next few weeks. And as we start to complete those assignments and move into contribution mode, these are really this is the best place for everybody to focus for the next few weeks, especially until you kind of get some of those mastery assignments under your belt, and we'll be kind of transitioning naturally from there into some of the contribution opportunities. What I'm excited about when it comes to contribution is that we will be using instances of the bounty, treasury, and escrow DAP. That's part of what we're exploring in the first place. Okay, so you can kind of see how there's that feedback loop. You'll have a chance to learn how the DAP works, do a couple of basic assignments with it on pre-production, and then we're going to use that DAP on mainnet to start organizing contribution for anybody who wants to take that step. Any questions about that upcoming bridge from where we are right now to working on the specialized modules and where we're going with the contribute modules?
Yeah, so the modules that are left in the instructor canvas, are those, is that like core curriculum and then we go into specialization and then we go into contribution?
Yeah, good. So everything from level 100 and 200, those are kind of the core modules, right? We want to, at the 100 level, our goal is just to show people, hey, here's some prerequisites that you're going to need in order to build. Then in the 200 level modules, we cover background knowledge, just giving you some initial lessons on token minting and the front end, and a little bit about validators, right? And then that takes us into the 300 level modules, where you don't have to do all of them. Anybody who wants to absolutely should, but some people might really want to focus only on the Plutus part. And for you, working on, the token faucet and module 303 would be enough for that. If you want to specialize as well in being able to implement things on the front end, then module 302 is where you'll learn about blockchain queries and starting to build some components on the page.
Correct.
But I imagine that different people will take different pathways through that content.
Okay, so the specializations are within the 300 module.
Yes, yeah. And if you're trying to get that full view, I totally recommend to try to do all of them. But if you're limited on time or you have a focused interest, that's kind of the idea.
So the whole module is like full stack, and then contribution is just adding to the projects?
Okay, then we get to the contribution part, which, yeah, there's a few ways that's going to work. Number one, we want to look at how credentials develop. And so one of the projects we're working on is the contribution token that people will receive on mainnet at the end of this course. And a question for all of us to consider is, hey, what information is on that contribution token? Does it just say, hey, I participated in PPBL? Maybe that's sufficient. But maybe we want to have some record of which mastery assignments people completed or what they contribute to. That's a question we're going to come back to during the last week of the course, just thinking about once everybody has a bit more experience at these 300 level of assignments to kind of inform what information we want there. And contributions may be part of that too. So there's going to be some basic ways to contribute just to get your feet wet as a contributor in the Cardano ecosystem. If you want to take on a task with the bounty DApp or with writing a real blockchain query component, you'll be able to do that. But then another contribution module will be for Mesh, for example. So the guys from the Mesh team who have been kind of building up their libraries as we've been going along. There was another change that they just published this morning. They have a few different ways that they'd like support on their project. So what we're going to do is create a bounty and escrow treasury for them, and then allow people to contribute to that project for real rewards if they want to. And the list could go on from there.
Yeah. Sounds cool.
Yeah. We should also note that anybody here, if you're launching your own project and you'd like to set up your own instance of a bounty treasury and escrow system on mainnet to get the help you need, that's something that we can look at as well. Okay, so contribution, it has time to start right at the very end of this 10-week course, but certainly can continue for as long as folks want it to. Hello to all the Sebastians out there. It's good to have you guys. Okay, so I put an agenda up in the PPBL announcements channel. Yuli, I was so happy to see that you got that error with the ppview hashes don't match on the command line, and that you discovered that it has to do with the protocol parameters. There's something I can show you in the front end template. How long did you have to beat your head against the wall with that one?
Sorry?
How long did you have to puzzle over that one?
Not so long, actually.
Good.
Short after I write this to Nelson, and Nelson give me the answer, and so I tested a bit with the V keys or something, and looked at datum hash and this other hash here, sender pubkey hash, but then I saw that I don't have a protocol JSON in this. And yeah, actually I Googled the error, and there's something where they mentioned in Stack Exchange where
Excellent.
you have to look at the protocol parameter JSON. So, and then I saw that I haven't it. So
good. And I love it. I mean, this is when I think about learning this way, I know from my own experience that once I've seen an error like that once, I'm like, okay, I know what that one means now, right? And so I'm glad that you were able to navigate that one.
Yeah, I struggled a bit with this task because I compiled the contract with the old policy ID from the testnet token. So lots of errors in this task.
I find myself, I need to just look at my directory structure for the first 5 minutes of every day just to resituate myself. What the heck network am I using today? All right, what keys do I need today? Oh my gosh, there's so much to keep track of.
Yeah, okay. That's true.
But we were running into that very same error on the front end. And this was one of the reasons for the delay in just getting that Faucet project out to everybody. And, now that I've seen it, it won't happen again. But Cremo and I had a heck of a time diagnosing that one. So I can show you what that looked like on the front end and what we did about it if there's time today.
Okay.
Curtis, what you got?
That actually reminds me of a question I had. So I was running through the GraphQL queries on Dandelion, and I don't see mine. I assume it's just a different network. I'm running both preview and pre-prod. Do you know, is the Dandelion QL running on the old testnet?
I believe that one is still running, but let me double check.
Well, I mean, it's the website's up, but it doesn't seem to respond with my transaction. So I was assuming it was running the old testnet or something.
Yeah. Okay. So that's exactly right. The Dandelion GraphQL testnet instance that's currently running is pointing to the old testnet.
Okay.
However, we also did spin up one for the pre-production testnet, and I have that URL here for anybody who needs it.
Okay, so we should be running pre-prod for some of these exercises.
Everything we have right now in the 300 level of the course will work with pre-production. Yeah, it's at this point all good to go there. Here's the URL of the GraphQL instance. I spun this one up with a little help from Roberto, and I'm exposing this through Gimbal Labs web domain. So this is, and that's something that we also want to show people probably after this course, but if anybody wants to stick around to go deeper into Dandelion, maybe a month from now, that's something we want to help you do. And there's actually an assignment on Canvas to take a Koios query that we were able to use on testnet in the original front end, and to translate that Koios query into a raw GraphQL query, because there's no public instance of Koios running yet. It's kind of a funny assignment because it's actually possible to run Koios. I'm running that from this GraphQL deployment, but exposing it comes with its own challenges. So we're choosing just to expose GraphQL for now, and then use this as a chance for people to kind of practice their GraphQL skills by reverse engineering a Koios query. And you'll all get to that. Yeah, that's laid out in module 302, where you'll start to investigate the queries, then have the opportunity to see if you can recreate that one.
Anybody else having issues running their pre-production node? I'm hitting 99.99%, and then it's like I'm getting some peer list issues, so I got to look into that.
Not on my side, it's at 100, and it syncs up quite fast.
So good to know. I'll look at it locally.
I do get a lot more, messages in the logs about peer connections and all that from this version of the node running on pre-prod.
Yeah, it gets so many to where I can't actually pause the screen. I mean, it fills up my entire terminal in probably less than 1 second, and then it just keeps doing that.
Yeah, there's a lot. But let me know if that continues. That shouldn't be getting stuck right now.
Yeah, I blew away my DB, started over, it got to 99.99, and then started giving me those blue messages about peer list. I deleted my node socket, tried again. I reconfirmed that I got the pre-production config files, all that's okay. So I don't really know what else. However, in the same environment I'm running pre-production, I have both. I have preview, testnet, and pre-production. They're just all separate node socket files and separate DB directories and separate config files. But everything was running, all three, like earlier this week, I was able to run all three separately with no problems. And now just all of a sudden, they're giving me this problem. So I don't know.
Anybody else seen that issue?
I know when I had that issue, and I'm not saying you have it, I had to make sure I had my my network, my host address set for how I had it on mainnet. And then when I went to pre-prod, I had to change them to all zeros in order for the peer selection to work. So I was stuck, but I think I was stuck a little earlier than you were. I didn't get to 99% at all. So it sounds like you're a little further, but just something that I had.
Yeah, and it was syncing. So like 2 days ago, actually, all my networks, I did some transactions on pre-prod. That was fine. I did transactions on preview. That was fine. And they were both synced to 100. And then last night I started going through the 300 modules, and I couldn't get it to sync. So I don't know. I'll definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, that's a curious one, man. I'm really sorry. That's like the most frustrating one as well. I know the day before yesterday, like briefly, I was stuck at like 99.97, but I just turned off the node and I restarted it and it did go to 100. But it's obvious that you tried that with no resolution. So I'm sorry to hear that.
Lucas, what's that plus RTS CRTS piece right there?
So that's about like assembly compiler or something, some kind of pre-calculated libraries or something, and it's just to optimize the memory on the node. Sorry, I can look up the documentation that I used, but I found something and it works. So that's really just to optimize my memory. Yeah.
Nice, good. Cool. What other questions do folks have? So I've got a few suggested agenda items that I shared in Discord. But before jumping into that, anybody else questions about 200 or 300 level assignments? Yeah, Nelson, what's going on?
Yeah, so in one of the announcements you made previously, I think you mentioned something about receiving some gimbals from the mainnet. I haven't been able to quite figure that out. Like, it was giving an insufficient UTXO error. Yeah. So is that a problem from my side or from the front end side? I haven't been quite able to figure that out.
Good. Okay, so that's most likely on your end. The first thing I always check is to make sure that the UTXO distribution in a wallet is going to work with a DApp. And sometimes if there's a less than 10 ADA in a wallet and a couple of different assets, you might have a UTXO distribution that confuses the coin selection algorithm and leads to that error. And one thing that can work is just to send a transaction to yourself of 5 or 10 ADA. Now, of course, this is on mainnet, and right, we're playing with real funds when we do experiments on mainnet. So you don't have to rush into that one, but if you do want to try to get that one to work, you can. More importantly, we will be using the same mechanism pretty much, just with the bounty contract, to start doing some mainnet transactions that use the token that you have, and actually are probably a little bit more worthwhile instead of spending that transaction fee. But yeah, if you are committed to getting that to work, try sending a transaction to yourself to reset your UTXOs and then see if it works.
Yeah, I'll check that and keep you updated.
Cool. And of course, you need that PPBL level 1 contributor token that I sent out. And what Nelson and I are talking about, there's a form at the start of module 401 that asks you for a mainnet address and a name that you would want on a token that you can use to start making contributions. So if you haven't gotten to that yet, don't worry, it'll stay up there. But if you're interested in starting to try a few interactions on mainnet, you'll have an opportunity to share your address right there in module 401. All right. Well, if there's no other questions for now, let's jump in and I'll show you a couple things. And my goal is to is to get you to have some questions. I think there's a couple of provocative things that we could look at today. So I wanted to start just again with this PP view data hashes. So let's see here. I'm just going to share my VS Code for a moment. I'm running the Faucet project, or sorry, the template, the front-end template project locally. But let's just zoom in so we can see what's going on here. When we construct a basic transaction in Mesh, it looks usually simpler than this. So let me open up another file here from the transactions folder. This is our, this is quickly sending a PPBL token. And in this case, you can see when we construct the transaction, we define the constant TX and we call it a new transaction. Transaction is at the top of the file, imported from Martify. And then we initiate it. There are a few different initiators you can use in a Mesh transaction, but for now, we're really only focusing on those that use a browser wallet. And that's what this looks like, initiator wallet. And as you can see right here, in a simple transaction, this is all I needed, because the only thing I was trying to do with this transaction is send some value. The Faucet unlocking transaction is a bit more complicated because it has some smart contract interactions in it. And that looks like this. Oh no, that looks like this. Redeem value from a script with a particular UTXO with a datum and a redeemer. And whenever we're talking about contract interactions, there are certain protocol parameters that come into play. And some of those parameters that are relevant here when we're talking about smart contracts, but are irrelevant here when we're talking about a simple transaction. Some of those parameters are different between pre-production, which is still on the Alonzo era, and the upcoming Babbage era networks. So Abdel Karim and I we were messing around for a while last week trying to figure out if I had just done something wrong with constructing my redeemer or anything else. And finally, we realized, oh, it's because a couple of these protocol parameters are different, and pre-production is running on the Alonzo era. And those matter to specify these, once again, when we talk about contract interactions. So if I just deleted all of this right here and left it so it only had initiator wallet, I would actually see that PP view hashes don't match error, Yuli, that you showed us from the command line in Discord. So let me pause right there. How much sense is that making for everybody, and what questions does that raise for you? Hey, Jonty, yeah, that's a critical one. How do we add several variables to the datum variable in the front end? These guys are using TypeScript to make it easier than I've ever seen to construct datum values and redeemer values that match the types we need. We are not fully using that yet. But for example, check this out. To use this Faucet contract, we had still a pretty simple redeemer. I put that over here. Here it is. Okay, so just here's a familiar enough example of a redeemer with one field in it, right? The way to recreate this redeemer for mesh is right here.
Yeah.
We use the action type, we send it some data with a pub key hash in it, and this connected pub key hash, that's all it is. It's just a pub key hash. And so when there's multiple fields, you basically just have to throw those into an array like this. And now you've got that complex data ready to go.
Perfect. And will it analyze? Will it be giving out the types? Because there was some of them are bytes. I think some other ones are, or maybe all of them end up being bytes. Yeah.
Well, you can do bytes. You can do ints. What else can you do?
But will the serialization itself figure it out, or?
Yeah, they have a lot of that going under the hood, but I think it's up to us just to make sure that that's true, you know, to kind of confirm that. And so I was just double checking that the new instance of the Bounty and Treasury DApp is ready to go via the command line. And my very next step is to test that with its more complicated redeemer and datum here, but everything points to it's pretty convenient.
Yeah, it looks to be. And good to know for the datum. I saw you just used the one. You didn't put it to an array though.
I didn't, because this contract just expected a number in this case, but same idea. We could just create an object.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So no need for the index or like the redeemer.
Right.
Okay.
Let's mess around with it and break it. I mean, this is it's kind of mind-blowing and super inspiring to be seeing all these steps that took us so long a couple months ago, man. They've gotten a lot easier. So building's about to get really fun. I see Dominic and then Roberto.
Hey, James, when I was doing this transaction, the one right here, I was kept getting an error. And my question was, I was trying to run it on the CLI. Do we use the example redeemer that you gave us, or do we create the redeemer and put our own pub key hash based on the address that we're trying to request from?
Excellent. Okay, so that redeemer has to be the pub key hash of the address that you're requesting from. So when you test this on the CLI, you got to do that yourself by just creating a file that looks like this and putting your pub key hash right here.
Yeah, it gave me no love. I'm wondering if because it's the error I got is it has to the token has to go to the receiver. So I'm guessing there was a mismatch in my public key hash. But I used the standard convert to a key hash, and I'm wondering, does it have to be a staking key hash? Does that have to be included, or shouldn't matter?
It should. I think it has to be a payment pub key hash.
Yeah, and that's the one that I'm using. It's my standard, or the one I'm gonna have is my standard preprod dev address, my folder wallet. So.
Oh, you know what it also could be? I made a mistake between versions of the faucet in some documentation. The other reason you would get that error is if you're sending the wrong number of tokens to the recipient. And in some earlier documentation, I left the number 250 T gimbals in that space. Yeah, but it needs to be 3,000. And I'm really sorry about that.
No. I think I might have. I saw it, and I just want to let you know that it's so well documented that I was able to even spot that. So I'm wondering if it's something I've done, but that's going to help me and give me some other angles But is the assignment intended to be done from the front end and I'm just tripping or what?
Aha, well, yes. Okay, so you will also now be able to complete the unlocking transaction from the front end. And in this case, it should automatically pick up your pub key hash, because where does this come from, right? We're using as the redeemer, PKH redeemer, which we build right here. And we populate the data with connected PKH. Okay, where does that come from? That gets set up here when we say, okay, if the wallet is connected, let's get the pub key hash of the connected address, and then we'll set the connected PKH to that result. So it should all work in an automated way from the front end, but hey, can't hurt to try both ways, right? All right, cool. Have fun with that. Roberto, what you got?
So I'm kind of assuming that the parameters, the wallet parameters that you had, I don't know if it was before the initiator wallet, would those have to match up to what our datum or what are those parameters? Would those have to match up with the parameters that we saw in like our Plutus smart contract?
Good. Okay. No, these actually come from a different place than the Plutus smart contracts. That's a great question to be asking. These values right here, you know how you got to run, if you're using the CLI, you write query protocol parameters for a given network, and then you output the parameters.json file. I was looking through what network parameters are hard coded into mesh, and I was comparing these to what I saw in that protocol.json file I got for pre-prod on the CLI. And I noticed that some of these numbers didn't match. And so that's when I started replacing them one by one. And as I did, different errors started disappearing. So these are all kind of the algebraic values, right, that we use to calculate transaction fees. Not all of them are relevant to this, but I just left them here to kind of keep it simple. These are all of the values that are hard coded into mesh, but I just took it, used it as written, and then replaced one by one until it worked.
Whoa.
But you could see this for yourself. If you go, well, we'd have to go, we could, if people want to later, we can go all the way deep into that kind of source code for mesh and see where these values are set and open up a protocol.json file. But I think there's some more accessible stuff that we might want to do before just getting into that nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
There's also, by default, the era in mesh is already set to Vassal. I have to tell those guys to change it to Babbage, I guess, to be kind of accurate with naming. But what they've done is they've set it so that by default, the whole mesh library is ready for the Babbage era. And if you don't specify an error, you'll get an error. Gosh, where I live, those two words are exactly the same. So it's hard to, I'm trying to speak very clearly right now. So we realized that we were getting some different errors when we didn't include this bit. And that was the final breakthrough that we needed. Okay, so one thing it could be interesting to do is look at some of the errors that can emerge from using the front end as the way it currently is. So please keep interrupting if you start to have questions about what I share with you here, because what I'm trying to do is just put things out there to get you thinking. And I hope that you will stop me when you have questions. Let's jump over to the front end template for a moment, which I have running here. And if you haven't already, I do recommend exploring the PPBL mini project. there is a documented but not very pretty version of an unlocking transaction here. And this is hard coded into the project as the faucet unlocking component. But then the final outcome for this project is that anybody taking this course can add their own instance of a unlocking and locking component here. So here's the T gimbal one that I originally specified. This is Nelson's. You can get his Chili tokens on pre-prod. And this is Gabri's Diga1 tokens. Okay. I don't know if Nicholas is here right now. There's one more step that people need to do after you submit a merge request to add your contract to the project. That's one of the things that's described in Canvas. The last thing you'll have to do is actually register your faucet. And the reason we did it this way is to get you thinking about the role that metadata could play in a DApp. So what happens here is we've got a simple form, and you'll fill it out with a policy ID, the name of a token, contract address, the amount that people can withdraw each time they hit your faucet, and just this datum in that doesn't serve much of a functional purpose, but is just using datum at each step and hopefully gives you a template for much more interesting uses of datum later on. You can use this form, or as suggested here, you could try to do it via the command line. And then once you do, I want to show you the results in GraphQL of this query. Okay, so that form I was just showing you, hard-coded into the project has, I think it's this metadata key. Let's make sure. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so you use that form, or you build a transaction on CLI, and then this data gets placed on chain. We can then use this GraphQL query in the front end as the registry of all completed faucets. So you can see, here's that Diga1 registration, and that's why we can see Diga1 when we look at the current list of faucets. Below that is the registration for Chili's. And because this is on chain, we can see it in our front end. And finally, the gimbals are there as well. So we didn't just have to use the hard-coded instance of that. This is a critical design pattern to understand, that on-chain metadata can be used for presenting information on the front end. And so I just want to pause right here. Does anybody have any questions about how or why these components are showing up right here?
There was an issue in the Discord server that somebody brought up where they were having trouble at this screen, and I didn't get this far myself, so I wasn't able to. Are they, do you know if they're still having issues?
Likely because the issue persists right here. That was Gabri talking about his implementation of this. It's late at night where he is, but we'll say hi to him. Hey Gabri, if you're catching up with this video later, I would like to show how it's likely that people could end up with the same issue. And then thanks to some help from Nelson last week, we figured out how to fix this issue if people run into it, okay? But yeah, what you see right here is an indication of the issue that he posted. He does have funds locked at this contract address, but they're not showing up here. So there's a few things I'd like you to see about this today. We're going to diagnose the problem. We're going to think about how to solve it. And then we're going to talk about how this is probably a bad idea. And that's the message is written here. We probably don't want to allow just anyone to deposit tokens at our contract address. Of course we don't. So the way this is presented right here is probably not how you would want to build a dApp for deployment, but it's placed here to get you thinking about how you might solve this problem. I'm not going to race into solving the problem today, but let's do a little work to diagnose this. I want to call up my terminal window. And let's fix that. All right, that should work. Okay, so I have a synced up pre-production node, as I can show you right here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this contract address where those DIGA1 tokens are supposed to be, and I'm going to query it over here. And I can see that clearly the message the front end is telling us there are no DIGA1 tokens locked here is not true. First of all, there are 2 UTXOs, and one of them has 2,970 of the token that it's supposed to have. Let's confirm that that's the right token. One place I could look to confirm this, A10, AA4 are the first characters of that policy ID. Let's go back and look at the GraphQL query for DIGA1 tokens. And you can see, indeed, that's the policy ID that we expect for these things. And after the policy ID, we've got 44, 49, 47. Let's just make sure that that is indeed DIGA1. So I'm going to grab that token name, enter it here and convert it. And indeed, I get DIGA1 right here. So Gabri did everything right. He's got a UTXO locked at his contract address with his token that's correctly specified in the metadata. And there's something wrong, once again, with our front end so that it doesn't show up here. Any questions about the problem I'm posting right here? And any ideas about why it might be happening?
My initial thought was how it's querying for the UTXO. And it's almost like it's responding with the first one, which doesn't contain it or something.
That's
and then
exactly
it just
right.
goes, moves on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The query that we're using is good, but the way that the results of the query are handled assumes that there will only be one UTXO at each contract address. And it effectively, but lazily, just takes it for granted that there's only one UTXO there. And so it just looks for the UTXO at index 0 of whatever the data returns. Now, I say to myself, well, doesn't this one show up first? Shouldn't that be at index 0 and this won't be a problem? Well, no, we can't assume that. Just because these two UTXOs show up in this order when we query from the CLI, they might not show up in that order in some other query. So this is exactly the problem. Now there's a few ways to fix this. We could fix the front end logic, and we should. But before doing that, another way to fix it would be just to somehow get rid of this UTXO that shouldn't be here. And so as an exercise, this is a really nice thing to try. I'd like to remove this UTXO from the contract address, so only the one that's supposed to be there will be there. How will that work?
Sounds like it worked to me.
So what does the Faucet contract require? Let's look at it. Go like this. I'm in the front end right here. Let's jump into the Faucet Plutus code for a few minutes. And reuse this one. Good. So, and here, let's just to make sure we're not missing anything. Okay. So in order to remove a UTXO from a contract address, we have to supply the Plutus script, the necessary datum, and the necessary redeemer. That's in the first place. Just to even have a chance of getting to the Plutus logic, we've got to specify the script, the datum, and the redeemer. And then the logic in this contract validates. We check to see that there is a PPBL summer 2022 token in an input. We check to see that that token is returned back to a sender. That sender is identified by the pub key hash specified in the redeemer. The rest of the tokens, right? Well, the token at the faucet has to be sent in the appropriate amount to the person requesting them. And the contract must get back the appropriate amount of tokens. Remember, this one is left here just as a placeholder for some future logic that people might want to add. So we don't have to worry about it right now. It's really these things. But here's the thing that I got to admit, I didn't really appreciate until Nelson and I stumbled into this on Friday, is that as long as this logic is met for the entire transaction, we can also interact with other UTXOs in the same transaction. And Nelson, if you have a better way to say that, or if people are trying to kind of parse what I'm saying, again, just jump in and interrupt here, okay? Basically, the premise is, look, I wanna write a transaction that unlocks both of these UTXOs and replaces them with just one UTXO. So here's my first question for everybody. Is it possible for me to do this, even though I'm not the owner of this faucet? Gabri would be the owner. Am I able to fix this problem from where I sit right now? What do you think?
If you have the script, it's kind of like having the signing key. So I feel like you should be able to spend that if you have the right validation.
Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna need the script in order to be able to unlock this thing. I have good news. If he hadn't shared it with me, yeah, I'd be out of luck. But one of the things people have to, oh shoot, hold on. Zoom is doing this crazy thing. Let me see if it stopped. Okay. But one of the parts of the assignment in module 301 is to use Git to share your script with the front end template. So actually, I've got his script right here. So that's pretty cool, right? And yes, that's going to be one of the prerequisites for solving this problem. That's great, Dominic. But is that sufficient? Do I need his signature?
No, I don't think so. You don't have the required signer in the validation, I think, but you need the PPBL summer token, I think.
So Yuli says no, is saying no, I don't need Gabri's signature. Anybody agree or disagree?
Agree with Yuli.
2 votes, 3, it looks like Nelson with a thumbs up. And that's right, right? Nothing in this logic is asking for an owner or issuer's signature. So yeah, anybody should be able to try to unlock this thing. Anybody willing to be put on the spot? Got a pre-prod node running and want to try this right now, or should I just keep leading the way? If anybody wants to jump in, I welcome you to, but I know that would be kind of a last minute request. So
If my node was running properly, I would.
I know 99.9%. Come on.
I have a note up.
Dominic, you want to try it? You got your PPBL summer 2022 token and want to give this a try?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. So if you've got the node running, and I'll put into the Zoom chat the address of this contract.
Excellent.
And then you can grab that Plutus file that we just looked at from the front end template. If you've pulled the latest changes, or if you just go up to GitLab, you can just download that necessary Plutus file.
Okay.
And then we're going to build a transaction. So yeah, I'm going to stop sharing. You should be able to share screen.
Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Looks good.
All right, excellent. Okay, so I am in address pre. Okay, let me get my my network situated. Let's see.
We just took you from 0 to 60 in no time. Thank you.
I know.
This
I'm
is
just like,
great.
all right, come on, get it together, get it together. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. I'm going to go. Let's see, maybe it's in recent. Let's see.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
all right, let's open the terminal. Calm down. There we go.
Just get that equal sign.
Thank you. As you can tell, I'm a bit nervous, but I am going to calm down in a second here.
Man, thank you for this. I'm so excited.
Not a
All right.
problem.
Address.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just trying to think if I want to go ahead and copy the file over first.
You
I would-
could, yeah, you could just, well, you could just set an environment variable with the path to that Plutus file.
Ooh, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. All right. So I will set a script. Okay. Actually, I should see where it is first. Oh. Copy down. Okay, so that script equal. I think it'll take that way, but that could be the two. Let me see.
Let's find out. Yeah, it'd be good to know if that works.
Okay, I will try and not, I'm gonna do we'll just put it the home. We'll use the squiggly.
Yep. Yeah, let's see.
Okay. All right, so we have that. Okay, and let's see. Now we're gonna need the script address that you've just given me in the Zoom.
Yep.
So we go here. Okay, excellent. Now, I do want to query that, but first let's do, let's see, scripts add that equal to that. That should work. All right, now I would like to query. Oh, it's not giving my quick key.
Oh, do you get different behavior in like the VS Code terminal?
Seems like it. What do I say that under?
Make sure you got UTXO there.
Ah, thank you very much.
Don't, yeah, got you.
I usually have a script open where I have
Yeah.
these commands.
And then you need the address tag before the script address.
I sure do. Thank you so much. Okay, that's not a problem. Let's go to.
All right, bingo.
Okay. All right, so here's the, okay, so this is actually what we're going to try to run to see if we can spin both UTXOs. So I am going to need those as inputs of the transaction. And I'm also going to need to make sure that I have my spending UTXO as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me go to my handy dandy here. Okay, so I have three, so I'm gonna have to, I think when I was trying to troubleshoot for the other one where I might have had the wrong values for the withdrawal, I tried to do a couple like split, maybe like UTXO. So is this gonna work if I have three, well, let's try it.
Excellent. Well, so remember, one of the things the contract requires is that we have that PPBL summer 2022 token. So the second UTXO there is going to be required to help the contract validate.
Yep.
Now, how much ADA is in that one? Does that say 10? Yeah.
Yes.
So that should be enough. And we might be able to get away without using any other UTXOs because there's 10 ADA there. If there was less, like 1.3 ADA, we'd probably need to use an additional UTXO for fees and stuff.
Okay, cool.
I think we
So,
need another one for the collateral.
for the collateral.
That's right. Yeah. So you can use index 1 for the input and index 2 as the collateral. That's great.
And I have, and excuse my, I think I have this where I was trying it out. I think I saved the transaction variables, and that's what I'm looking for.
Oh, and I've got you. If you can't find that right now, let me
Oh,
send you.
excellent. That'd be so much better.
Yeah, I got you. All right, this will give you, I'm putting this in the Zoom chat here. Oh, sorry. 1 sec. All right, this README gives you that transaction template, and you can just drop that into a Scratch file or wherever else you want.
Yep, this is what I need. Okay.
Yeah. And I just wanted to point out something. So James and I were talking that day that I can use the same UTXO for my collateral and my fee. So I read up something after that, James. So I read up that the collateral UTXO should not have any tokens in it. I haven't tried if it works with the token UTXO, but so it won't work probably. That's what I read up.
That
So
makes
the-
sense. Cool.
So
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
the fee UTXO and the collateral UTXO that can be same.
And that's one of the major convenience changes that's coming our way after the hard fork. You'll be able to just use any UTXO that has sufficient ADA in it. And if I've still never for myself created a case where my collateral disappears. I'd still like to see a working example of something that takes the collateral. But the idea is that after these changes, should you build a transaction that does result in the loss of collateral, only that amount will be deducted and you'll still get another UTXO back with the rest of whatever was left in it. So, you know, that's a really nice kind of quality of interaction enhancement right there. That's coming our way in a few weeks.
All right. So I just uploaded the variables, and hopefully, if this is done right, should be able to get a transaction build raw just based on the variables that we have. So let's see.
Excellent. Okay.
All right.
Now let's look at that. Can you open up maybe in VS Code just a text file or a markdown file so we can look at that transaction template together?
Of course, of course.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm looking at lines 6 through 9. And the way you did this is exactly right. You've got some contract TX in, right? And then you've got the script file, which we've got the path to, datum value and redeemer value. But there's a couple of things we got to change here because these docs that I sent you are a tiny bit out of date.
Okay, okay. And I'm wondering about the transaction ID. I don't think I took that in consideration in my nervousness. So something we got to look into.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. First thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to look at this on my end without sharing the screen. But I just showed you in GraphQL the results of this query. And one of the things that we're all asked to do when we register our faucet via metadata is specify some datum integer. So I've been using 101 when I do this, but for Gabri, he chose 1704. Okay, so we're going to replace the 101 with 1704. And if you did run, if you did hash that value, I would hope to see the datum hash that we see in both of those UTXOs. But let's hope it works, okay? What I will point out is that the datum hash is the same in both of his UTXOs. If you jump back over to where you have those where you queried those UTXOs, I noticed that both of his UTXOs have the same datum hash.
Correct. You see that?
Okay, so that's convenient.
Yes.
The thing is, both of these UTXOs, we want to get both of those TX hashes and TXIXs, right?
Yeah, got you. So.
Yeah,
and-
maybe we want contract TX in 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
Great.
See, so it runs. -2 and -3. Wait, are these the?
That
Oh,
was
okay.
going to be, yeah, that
Gotcha.
one's hash 2, so that should be
Yeah.
good. But then the other contract TX in has to be changed to match the
Gotcha.
first one.
Okay, so I'm gonna go here because it looks like that. Now I just want to go over this on the contract TX signed. I need to have both of these, right? Because I believe I accidentally grabbed one from the original lesson plan.
That could be, yeah. So make sure that your contract TX in 1 matches that one right there.
Perfect. That's what I'm doing right now here on the side.
Okay. And that one's index 3. Then we got this one at index 2. And yeah, those are the 2 contract UTXOs we want to unlock.
All right, let's see. Let me make sure on mine that I have, so I have 0. Now, let me add, so we were saying that we can use the same collateral UTXO to spend and to pay for the transaction.
That's what Nelson taught me last week, and it turned out that it works.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I'm gonna use that.
But that doesn't work in our case right here, because you
Okay.
have an extra asset in the UTXO that we need to consume.
Got you, got you, got you.
By the way, I haven't seen that error, so maybe we can see.
Okay, maybe it works anyway.
Okay.
One way to find out.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab this UTXO really quick here. Make sure I have the right hash. TXID is gonna be 1 on that one. Okay. All right. I'm gonna copy this. All right, guys, here we go. So first of all, I'm just gonna get the variable set.
Mhm.
Okay, and then let's see, I want to make sure that on here, there's nothing That we, okay, so script all the same, contract X1, we did change that. All right, let's give it a roll.
Well, let's pause for 1 second here because I'm just, and this is something that you can't see, but I'm in the GraphQL response. And I noticed that Gabri set it to a withdrawal amount of 10 tokens at a time. So on line 12, we're only going to be able to claim 10 of the asset. And by the way, what is asset set to that contract asset?
I bet you it's not. Appreciate that. Okay.
Yep.
So we go back to code, yes, code. So you're going to query that address at, it's going to be here. So we do need.
Bingo. There it is. 2,970 of those A10 AA thingies.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, got you. Thank you. So, but we are going to need.
That's the asset. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's go back to mine.
I get more grateful for front ends that can automate these things every time I do this. Anybody else there?
This has been just seeing what Mesh can do. It's really alleviated some of the stress that I thought I was going to have when migrating from like personal to private. I'm really excited about it.
Good, good. And yeah, I want to keep you going back and forth between exercises like this and using Mesh, because you're building up your appreciation for Mesh every time we do stuff like this.
Yeah, I can see the logic and the wisdom in that, bro. It's just, and plus you can just see how it works and what it's doing underneath. So
that's right. All right, now what error did we get here? Unexpected. You have all of your backslashes in there.
I feel like I'm missing
one of these variables, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like it's expecting
auth token fee
The
contract.
collateral. The collateral has
collateral.
Oh, it's collateral set.
It looks like it is.
Index, its index is
no index. Good job, guys. Sorry.
Nice, good.
Love.
Nice one.
Wow, bug solving is way faster with a crew. Oh my no.
Justin, this is the one with PKH here. Yeah.
All right, where are we at here? Unexpected
TX.
cause. Okay, so something is not right in the variable, I think. Let me go back here. Still,
When it gets to TX. That looks fine. That should be okay.
Do they work with spaces?
Yeah, it should. Within those quotation marks, that should be okay. If we see unexpected plus, is the sender set to an address? Usually if we see an unexpected plus there, it's because it's not reading the sender address correctly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just echo sender in your terminal, and that would tell us if that was the error.
Is it capital away?
Oh, that might be why, because you set it to, I think you set it as a lowercase. Do echo.
I don't even know if I have sender set, as a matter of fact. Because that would be my home address, right? So it's,
Should be. And I think we set it at the beginning. Yeah, I forget what you set it to. Address. Oh, okay. So that's what it was. So in the transaction that you're writing, oh yeah, that works too, exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just going
No,
off.
that's good. That approach is fine. That's totally fine. That's great.
Let's see what I did. There it is.
Nice.
Let's see what we got now.
All right, let's try it again.
Oh man. This is
No,
like,
don't worry. This is not going to work yet, but this is why we're doing this today. TX out missing plus. Why?
yes.
I can see a variable that says token back to the contract. Is it given? Like, have we assigned it?
Oh, right, we have to replace that number. That's exactly right.
Okay, let me pull back up mine.
Yeah, so there are currently how many tokens at that contract address?
Oh, the token.
2,970. Just replace that number. We can just type the number 2,960. Right, because it's the amount there, take away 10. Get rid of the $sign in front of that 2960. Yeah, we're just hard coding that because we can look at the number in the UTXO. Okay, this is going to take us closer, but it's still not going to work. Okay, we're getting there though. TX out, we still have an unexpected plus sign. Oh, is that, why are we getting these extra lines? You see how like, can you go back to where you're drafting the transaction?
Yeah, of course.
Generally, I see when you're using a native asset in the TX out, I usually see the sender plus space quote, and then the definition.
That shouldn't be the problem here, but so there are a couple other things that we know we have to fix here. Okay, first of all, actually that might be the cause of the error. The reason we're seeing this may be that this path right here is confusing it. So if Dom, if you know a way for
Yeah, for
a better
sure.
way to do that, that might change it. But there's still two more things. One of the things we have to work on is what Justin just said in the chat. We do have to make sure that we have the right sort of redeemer to use with this. Yeah. Let's see if this at least changes the error that we get when we run this thing. We'll see.
Okay, so we're still at this.
No. Okay, so the other thing we can do is just move a copy of that script file into the same directory where you're building this transaction. And that way we can at least eliminate the whole file system as maybe the cause of problems.
Yes. Where was it? Zoomer?
Yep. You're in the right spot. That's great.
Okay.
Nice. And then back in where you're building that transaction, we could just get rid of the whole path in front of that now.
Oh, excellent.
Nice. And just ask for the file itself. And I'm curious, you can even replace the variable there, which, yeah, just the file name, right?
Yep.
And I'm curious if this will at least get us a different error. I promise it'll still give us an error, but let's see if this changes anything for us. All right. The reason that might be happening is because of what the script is asking for in the first place. So here's the next thing we're going to change. Don't worry about that contract TXN. It's exactly right.
Okay.
However, go back to where you're drafting the transaction. The datum value is supposed to be 1704. The redeemer is no longer a value. Now it's a file. So change TXN redeemer value to redeemer file. And you already have a file in this directory called redeemer.json. So just type that for now.
Okay.
And then let's open up maybe in the code editor, if you, or right here, if you have redeemer.json, let's look at what's inside of that file. And what we want to do here is this is what we were talking about earlier. We want to make sure that that is your pub key hash for the key that you're going to sign with. Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Let's double check. Yeah, let's double
Yeah.
check.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so let's see. All right, let's open. Actually, let me go through here real quick.
So you've got a payment S key and V key right here. You should be able to say Cardano CLI address key hash.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's the command.
That's
Yeah.
something. I don't know if that's still on.
We want key hash, payment verification key file, and then the one that's in the directory where we're currently working. So we should be able to just stop right there.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah.
So this I don't want. Let me go ahead and erase this off of a script.
Yeah. And probably get rid of the word policy in front because you're already in that directory. Just policy.v key. Yeah, that should work.
Let's see which one. It's in the bottom. Let's see. Payment.
Oh, payment. Right, right. Of course it is. Yeah, that makes sense. Nice. And that does look familiar to me. Go back to that Redeemer file 16C. All right, that looks good. Ending in 2A01. All right, so that's good. Your Redeemer
Right.
file should be ready to go.
All right,
All right,
good deal.
cool. Let's run this transaction again with just Redeemer file and Redeemer.json. And we're going to be a step closer here. But don't worry, it's still going to have an error.
Good deal, good deal. Okay, so we're gonna run this and we're gonna run it with, let me make sure that. Let's see. All right. I know that's. Yeah. Okay.
All right, what do we get this time?
What in
Still that. Okay, now part of the reason we're
Is
Go
the
ahead.
datum hash assigned? The variable datum hash. No, down. TX out datum
I don't
hash.
think it is. Yeah, I don't think it is. But we're not even getting that far because we're getting this error at option TX out. So yeah, we're gonna have to add something there for datum. I'd like to see us even getting as far as that error yet. Got a sender, that looks good. Is that the whole address? If you
Yeah,
just-
that is a whole.
All right. Good. And we've got auth token there. That should be fine.
Fine, okay.
And we've got asset. Asset
Yeah.
is defined, right? Okay. All right. So, but there's another thing, and the main reason I want everybody to see this today is there's one more thing that we haven't considered. Okay. So go back to where we're building the transaction in the first
Sure.
place. Yeah. And a critical thing to understand here is that on line 6 and on line 7, we are unlocking contract UTXOs. After line 7, you have the necessary script file, datum, and redeemer. But you need to repeat lines 8 through 10 in between lines 6 and 7. Just make a copy of those and put them again, yeah, in between those two lines. Because each of these are unlocking from a contract. Now, I don't think this is why you were getting the error, but let's try this again, because I don't think this would cause what we're seeing, but maybe it does. Maybe it's just not even unlocking those contract TXNs. Let's try it. Okay, so
Do
we're
you
still
mind-
getting,
Do
Go
you
ahead.
mind? I know we're hard coded over here, and while we're kind of thinking about it, I'd like to change out these variables really quickly with the actual.
that's fine. Yeah, just to make sure that that's not the
to make
problem.
sure,
Yeah,
man.
because that's always where this error comes from, is it says, oh, you're trying to feed me this variable, but there's no information there. So, and then just for anybody who's ever tested this on their own, where the error comes from is the next line after the place where you lost. Yeah, let's just hard code those things in.
I'm
Auth
fine,
token TXN, that was correct. Fee TXN. Oh, you're using the same TXN twice there because you got the index the same.
Sorry, can you repeat, please? Where was the error?
The lines 35 and 36 are referencing the same TXN. And they do both have the same TX hash, but one of them should have index 1 and one of them, I think you actually want TX index 1 and 2.
Okay.
Good. Now the contract TXN, that looks good. And then the other contract TXN, I know we got those ones right before. Datum value, you got the redeemer ready to go and the script for each of these.
We get this collateral in there.
Now we're going to throw your address in there as the sender.
Yep. Let's go.
Yeah. I know we're at time and we're still recording, so if anybody has to go, you'll catch the very end of this, but this is great. I really appreciate, Dominic, you going through this today.
No contract address, guys.
Oh, okay. What did we
Okay.
call it? Yeah, and that makes sense because right
Yeah.
after that, and then there's a plus
Plus.
sign that says, okay, what's this plus
Yeah.
sign doing here?
Okay, where we find the address, it is in the chat, correct?
It is, yep, it's just a few rows up. Here it is again. Good.
And bottom. Time. I would have really liked to see that with just using the variables. That kind of gives me more satisfying, but whatever. Okay.
Well, so that's good, but you can go back and try that again, just to make sure that you've got a good transaction template.
Okay, I'm missing a backspace, it looks like.
Can you go back to, let's look
Of
at
course.
this. Plus, oh yeah, a space on line 18.
Okay.
Look, oh, I can't see it.
Aha, yep. Okay. Wait, but that.
Can you pull up the, where you're
Yeah,
editing
sorry,
that
sorry,
transaction?
thank you.
Yeah, and then, so on lines 15, yes, okay, good. 15, 16, and 17 look good now. Asset and auth token, are we pretty sure those variables looked good?
Yes, but what I'm not sure about is this, the datum hash.
Let's just hard code it, okay? So
Okay,
if you
yeah, I don't
query
have
that
that.
contract address again, or just scroll up in your terminal window, we can just copy that datum hash. Yeah, you could hash that number right now,
Okay.
or you could
Or-
copy the datum hash from the UTXO.
Good call on that. Good thing, yes. Yeah.
Either way, right? And
Yeah.
remember, anytime we have UTXOs at a contract address, that datum hash becomes a tool that we can use to filter UTXOs. Yuli, see you soon.
I'm just gonna query the contract again.
Yeah, that's fine.
Wow. On a chat. So it's got it right here. Back to our transaction that we are building.
That's the, don't replace it there. Leave the 1704 there, but replace on line 18, the datum hash. Yeah,
All right, let's see what we got now.
let's try it.
Oh my nose. Oh,
Hey, okay, good. We're unlocking both, sending them. That transaction fee looks right. It's almost a whole ADA, but we're going to watch that number go down with Plutus V2.
yes.
All right,
and
let's sign and submit. Let's see if it worked.
I'm checking the sender key because that is going to be mine. Okay, so somebody put that file in there.
Okay.
All right, let's see if it'll sign. Wait, don't I need a script in there? No.
You included the script, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You included it twice. That's why this was a particularly expensive transaction.
Gosh, yeah. And let me actually make sure I do that again, guys. Sorry about that. All right, let's see what we got here, guys. UTXO collateral contains non-ADA.
Ah, we were wondering about that error.
Okay.
Yeah, finally.
Ah, we found it. Okay, good. So your collateral UTXO. So just query your wallet one more time.
Okay. No problem.
So for collateral, I would use index number 2.
Okay.
And then you really only need one TX in from you. You can just use the one with index 1, and that should have enough value in it.
So can I use the one with index 1, the one that my asset is on? Can I also use that to pay for the transaction?
Yeah, because it has enough ADA in it, right? 10 ADA should be enough to pay for the transaction and give you change.
Does that mean in this case, we will have the collateral UTXO intact, like after the transaction?
Yes, it'll be unchanged with the same TX hash. So Dominic, get rid of, at the top, you've got testnet magic 1 and then TX in, TX in. Just get rid of one of those TX ins.
Perfect. Okay.
Good. Slightly lower fee because there's fewer TX ins now. Let's see, maybe.
Maybe.
Nice, dude. Yo, I know there's a lot of pressure on in a moment like that, but you did great. Thank you
Oh my
for
goodness.
navigating that. It's so stressful, isn't it?
Oh my, no. I'm like, yes, it's stressful. I'm sorry it took so long. I wasn't in my environment.
No,
Thank
you did
you.
great.
So,
No, thanks for going on the spot there. Okay, so here's the moment of truth, though. did we fix this on the front end? Watch this. I'm going to come over here and let me share my screen for a moment. Hey, Mix.
Hey James, how are you? I just wanted to ask you that can we continue the session from this? I mean, this
Yeah,
Zoom.
we can just leave it running.
Okay, no problem.
All right, check it out.
I will post.
So I'm still running the front end template, and what I want to see is if I refresh this page, is this bit right here going to look any different? You guys ready for the moment of truth? Let's see. I don't know. Hey, look at that. We fixed it. Hey. Nice job. All right. So, and look, current faucet balance, 2,960 tokens. Anybody can come along. Datum value is 1704. There's our hash like it's supposed to be. And now everybody here who has a PPBL summer 2022 token can get Diga ones, can get Chili's. My money's on Chili's right now, and T gimbal tokens from the faucet. So make sure you can claim all of those by running the front end template. And like you saw right here, everybody here can try to complete the faucet mini project to go through these steps. And one of the steps you'll need to do is a slightly easier version of what you just saw Dagwell doing. Dagwell, congrats and nice work. Thanks for that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for the guidance. It was so awesome. I had a good time. It was like skydiving a little bit, but it was awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody have questions about what just happened right here? Okay.
I just took out
Oh,
10
go ahead. Go.
token. No, I'm just saying I just took out 10 of those tokens.
Nice work. So if I refresh this, is it going to be down to? Here they go. Look. All right, 10 more just left. Nice. And so keep in mind, every one of these transactions, every time somebody pulls from one of these faucets, that's an on-chain event. And we can look at that record of transactions to find out about what's going on with each of these tokens. And that's a concept that you're going to want to keep in mind as we move to some of the more interesting stuff. You know, faucets are one thing, right? This is very basic functionality though. Hey, if you have this token, you can grab some of these. The bounty, treasury, and escrow DApp is only a little bit more complicated than this, okay? And so we're just going to build upon the basic functionality here and start moving towards something a bit more interesting as you move into these more advanced Plutus projects. One more thing before we switch to that Plutus deep dive. Think about what's wrong with this component right here. And if you're interested in front-end development, think about what you would want to change in our front end rather than just leaving, you know, a transaction form. Any prankster could come along and throw tokens into this contract or this contract or this contract. And they could break our faucets a little bit if they did that. So even though we know how to fix it, if that prankster comes along, think about what logic you might want to add right here. And that's going to be great for anybody who's kind of flexing their front end muscles right now. Cool.
Hey, James, how about if and this might be another lesson, but if I wanted to sidestep this and just do one like for my own whatever, could I pick another key to query, or could I skip the query process altogether, or do we need that to find out how many tokens in order?
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, for this faucet mini project, you're exactly right. There's a hard-coded metadata key that's helping us to populate the data for this page. And that's a design pattern just to expose you all to so you can do whatever you want with it. So Dominic, like you're saying, yeah, go into the code for the front end and see how this page, registered faucets, is constructed, and look at how these components come together. And you'll see that the key is just hard coded there into the project. And you're exactly right. Anybody who wants to copy this project and do something similar, but their own instance, would just choose a different metadata key. And there you go, right? If I added 999 to the end of this and query it, I can see, oh, there's an unused key. There's no transaction data there. I could do whatever I want with that one. Or like you just suggested, you could skip this step entirely. All right. I want you to see that transaction metadata can be used effectively to help us kind of populate what we're seeing on the page, to be that shared immutable registry of different contributors doing something. But yeah, we don't have to use metadata to populate this page. You could just keep this in a JSON file that's local to your own project, or this could be on a private database somewhere. There's a bunch of different ways to think about it, but imagining how you might use metadata is something I just want you to weigh that as an option and think about if that's ever a good choice.
I love some metadata. So this is excellent, but obviously I'm running parallel goals here. I want to learn as much as I can. Kind of like the course suggests while I'm building stuff, because you guys are right on the money with that. It just sinks in.
Thanks, man. Hey, and that is my hope, and I'm very optimistic that the tasks lined up for you here, some of which we're talking about in 301 with the faucet right now, but then as you move on to module 302, these different query tasks, and then you move on to module 303. These first 3 mastery levels were just posted today. These tasks are full of little tripping points where you might get stuck, okay? But we're trying to design tasks for you that are going to expose you to some of those key ideas as you go. And so just know that kind of struggle is part of it, okay? Productive struggle is the term teachers use. We don't want you to flounder and get discouraged, but we do want you to struggle productively, because that's what's going to lead you to really understand, right? All of development is productive struggle. Any dev, that's what they do. They beat their head against the wall for half the day, and then they have a big breakthrough right before they go home, right? So that's the experience you want to get you all to have with the tasks that are lined up here. And the lifeblood of this course is the questions you bring after you kind of mess around with some of these tasks and try to figure them out. So really excited for where we're going to go these next few weeks as you have a chance to look at this stuff. And we'll do this session same time tomorrow on Thursday, 14:30 UTC, starting off from any questions people have. And then if you don't have questions, I've got a few more agenda items that we didn't quite get to today, and we'll keep going. Cool.